Honorable Speaker, as I said earlier, we also want to continue to tell members who have taken the responsibility to stand their grounds and then see that we have justice for those unfortunate incidents that had happened in this country. It's the worst since before independence. Such a number of young people who had lost their lives because of negligence of duty. Honorable Speaker, I went through the report and I think it is important that we look at the issues that had been raised by the committee, but the structures are there already for the Medical Council and also for the Gambia Pharmacy Council. Honorable Speaker, going through the guidelines for import and export of medicines and related products that was produced by the Medical Control Agency of July 2020, they have clearly stipulated all the procedures that need to be followed for the importation of drugs into this country. Honorable Speaker, the Medical Control Agency also went further to have guidelines for inspectors. The report has talked about strengthening the inspectorate of the Medical Council. But there is a document that was still again produced, Honorable Speaker, by the Medical Control Agency, and this one was also dated 1st of July 2020. Honorable Speaker, all these things are done because the institutions, people who are there to take responsibilities and take the guidelines are not following the rules. And there is not of negligence. At this present time, we expect the minister and the council, and also those who are responsible for the inspectorate at the seaports, to resign from their jobs and let justice prevail in this country. Honorable Speaker, unless that is not done, we will continue to waggle here and we will continue the blame game that we should not have done. Honorable Speaker, there are a lot of unanswered questions that the committee did not go further. And I think it is very important for us to be able to ask those very important questions. How were these products being imported into the country and to the seaports? I think that is very important, Honorable Speaker. Who offloaded them from any entry point where they come out? Whether they come by sea, by land, or by air, there should be somebody who did all those paperwork. Honorable Speaker, there are a lot of structures or steps that need to be taken to ensure that inspection ensure the manufacturer compliance principles, which, if not followed, is going to lead to catastrophe, and that's what happened in this case, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the death of 70 innocent children is a tragedy, and it is going to be very difficult for us to replace as a country. Honorable Speaker, where I did not see in the report of the committee whether the Medicines Control Agency and all the satellite institutions that are responsible for the monitoring of drugs coming into the country, whether this company that was mentioned, whether their stores were inspected. And I think those are some of the key things that were highlighted in all the 3 documents that I have mentioned. A mention was made about the Section 50 of the Act. Honorable Speaker, all these things are there. What we need to do as a nation is to ensure the implementation of our policies and programs. We need to detach the executive from running the affairs of these agencies when they are set up, and especially these important institutions that came into being as an act of parliament in 2014. Honorable Speaker, this act is very clear as to the principles and the way that they are going to do. As a ministry, I think they have a lot to do and they need to do a lot of coordination. The World Bank is not giving any free money to the country. If the World Bank is going to construct that lab, at the end of the day, we are going back again to contract loans, and that is going to increase the loan portfolio of this thing. Honorable Speaker, I think it is about time as a country, let us strengthen the institutions institutions that we have, especially at the sub-regional level. ECOWAS Commission have very key institutions that are dealing with communication, with education, and with health. WAHU, West Africa Health Organization, is our own institution. The Gambia government is spending millions of dollars, 0.25% of tax revenue that is collected is paid to the ECOWAS Commission. And that funds all these 5 institutions of the ECOWAS Commission. I am not sure why is it that the committee did not consult WAHU for expertise advice, and also they should be able to link them up with other international agencies that WAHU is working on in Africa. They have mentioned about Ghana and Nigeria. Ghana and Nigeria are all members of the ECOWAS community, and most of the senior members of these institutions are from Ghana and Sierra Leone. So if they have contacted WAHU, they should be able to give them guidelines and help them to deal with the issues and how do we ensure that we counter counterfeit production, especially when it comes to drugs in this country. Honorable Speaker, this story is a story that is going to stay with Gambians for long. And I think we have seen what the report is saying, but people have to be responsible of their conduct. Negligence and people who do not want to take their responsibilities, we should take an action right away. So, Honorable Speaker, I have very few recommendations that I want to make. I think the Minister of Health should vacate that office and allow the Parliament to come out with our resolution, and we are going to follow this to the latter. The management of the Medical Council should be dissolved, and the Pharmacy Council should also be dissolved. And all those people who are responsible of bringing this deadly drug into the country should be prosecuted right away in the Gambia. We do not have to wait for any legal further action. Honorable Speaker, to conclude, Honorable Speaker, I want to take you back to the report of the Gambia government's white paper. If we go to section 5.3, 30 and 530, please allow me to read that section, and then I will make my recommendation as to what I want to say, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Gambia government's white paper, section 30 says, of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, the government accepts the recommendations of the Commission. A committee was set up by the Personnel Management Office for this purpose and has completed the implementation of the recommendation. Renaming Act 22 to the Memorial Act. The government should rename Act 22 to the Memorial Act and give the National Council for Arts and Culture overall responsibility for the management and execution of this project. And 531, the government accepts the recommendation and directs that the act be renamed Never Again Memorial. The government intends to renovate the act and erect a wall which will be inscribe the names of the victims. The Gambian government notes further that the ACAC, that is the National Council for Arts and Culture, is already in charge of managing this act. Honorable Speaker, I want to come up with a recommendation that I want to suggest that the names of the 70+ children are part of the victims' names that will be at Act 22 for remembrance. And this is very important because we don't want this to go under the carpet. If the names of the victims of the former government is going to be inscribed and a wall is going to be erected, Honorable Speaker, I want to recommend that the names of these 70 people are also inscribed in that wall so that they can be remembered for life and then for posterity. Honorable Speaker, I think that's what we need to do as a country, but I will stand firm again to see that the minister has to go and we need to dissolve the council, that is the Medical Control Council, and also the Gambia Pharmaceutical Committee, and some of these things that we need to do. Honorable Speaker, finally the report. Honorable Chairperson, I think next time when you are writing your report, it is important that you give us the acronyms so that the people will understand the names before we go along. Because acronyms tell us what those companies, there are a lot of scientific words here, and then the report is without an acronym. So I think it is very important that you list down all the acronyms and then give their scientific meaning so that when they come across the report, then people will understand them more. Honorable Speaker, on that note, I take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Combo South. I now recognize the member for Woolly East to take the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Much has been said, and I want to also thank the committee for the strenuous work they have done. Honorable Speaker, I believe the committee should take this report as a preliminary one because it is still incomplete. Looking at the mandate that they have, I believe the mandate that they have is quite huge and it has not been completed. Because if you look at the objectives, Honorable Speaker, you will see that it says the inquiry of the Select Committee seeks to establish the causes and the impact of the AKI that killed at least 70 children in the Gambia. So they are saying, A, to establish the root causes of the reported deaths of these 70, the effects of the contaminated medical serum linked to the deaths, the impact to access primary health care services on emergency cases, especially for children, the culpability of the suspected importer and pharmacy, the culpability of the suspected importer and pharmacy linked to the contaminated drugs, the impact that availability and access to medical drugs, especially for children, has on emergency health services, the effects of the prevailing legislation, the Pharmacy Council, Medicine Council, Control Council, Agency, on the pharmacy, licensing, and medical regime of the country, to consider proposal for a review of legal and regulatory regime governing the pharmacy, medical drugs, importation, and storage, and licensing administration is very, very wide. So, and it goes on. I'm still not done. So it's definitely very wide, and I believe that we need to consider this report, perhaps with some amendments, and allow them to continue with the work so that they'll be able to complete that and come up with a final report that will help us to actually frame our minds. Honorable Speaker, we need to have an open mind when it comes to this issue, because it's a very sensitive issue. These are human beings, 70 human beings, 70 Gambians that have perished because of this. And as the Combo South have just said, we are not sure how many people, how many Gambians have actually died because of this. We are not sure. What is known is what we are told. But what is not known, how many people have taken these drugs, they have gone to the countryside, they've died there, and the causes are not known. So it is a very serious matter, and to know the root causes of this will take some time. The Brikama note said the root cause is known, but I do not agree that the root cause is actually known. I think they've mentioned one of the causes, but the actual root cause is yet to be established. Honorable Speaker, we are dealing with a very serious matter because an announcement, an outcry is done in the Gambia that these 70 children have died, linking them to paracetamol syrup, etc., etc. And deaths occurred in other countries like Indonesia, where they have removed all the paracetamol syrup from all their stores, all the pharmacies, and some other drugs. And I know many countries are listening to this particular debate to know what the root causes are. So if we cannot tell them the root causes, it's better we tell them that we are yet to know those root causes. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the situation very critically, we've been clamoring for this central laboratory. Those who were here in the 5th legislature knew that I came with a parliamentary question asking the minister to, why we have not established a central laboratory that will test both food and medicine. Because my major concern was the Jimbo. As I said before, I watched a documentary in India where they have rejected the Jimbo from China. And it looks like the Jimbo is directed to only us here. This particular Jimbo is banned in India. Because when they tested it, they see that it is not fit for human consumption. Because they put a lot of things there. A lot of things. So we need a food laboratory. We also need a laboratory that will check the medicines as well. But it looks like in this country, you say these things and then people, it just pass. And that's why I said we are not a careful country. We are rather a careless country. Honorable Speaker, I've also raised a concern here that we need a testing lab for the chemicals that are coming to this country. The NEA has cried over and over that we need a testing lab so that all these chemicals that are coming into the country, they'll be able to test it. And they can also test medicine. But now the NEA, the chemicals, they are going to Senegal. The medicine, they are going to Senegal. Even serious tests to know, diagnosis, you have to go to Senegal or you have to go to another country. Just recently, I was telling somebody, I took my wife to South Africa. They did the testing here. They said she has sciatic something, they need to operate the spinal cord. And she refused. Luckily, when I went to South Africa and do the testing there, it was not even meant for operation. It was just physiotherapy. They would have operated her and killed her here. Many people are dying because of that. Wrong diagnosis because of lack of a testing machine. So we must take this thing very seriously. And you look at the budget, every item, they will say equipment. All the different branches, they want to buy equipment. If you put all that money together, it can give you a testing lab, which will do this testing. But at the end of the day, you go to the hospital, even the MRI test is not correct. Even X-ray. They'll have to go and watch the X-ray. 28, I don't know, that was done colonial period, they watch the X-ray. In Gambia still now, they watch the X-ray to see. You don't need to do that. But because we are careless, that's why we are like that. Honorable Speaker, like I said, the monies, even MRI test, we don't get the right one. Now, if you look at page 16, it's talking about blood samples and early quotes of the submitted drugs we are taking. And then out of those drugs, they've discovered that, there are negative things there. They turn out to be negative. Now you go to page 17 as well. you will see that page 17, they tell you that tests were done in Switzerland. The Swedish labs, Switzerland, the Swiss labs, which showed, unacceptably high quantities of these compounds. So they are highly toxic. Now, you move again, you go to page 21. Page 21, they will tell you, the lab results of the organ functions of these children showed very high levels of creatinine, liver enzymes, and uric acid. Uric acid alone can kill a child. And children are not supposed to suffer from uric acid. It's elders, like myself. I have uric acid. That's why I'm abandoning cattle meat, because it has a lot of acid. So I abandoned that. But for children, you have high level of that because of this medicine. And that is inconsistent for children mostly under 2 years. The autopsy results of 2 of them showed multi-organ failure and fatty necrosis, explains that there was a toxin that was causing multi-organ failure. So this is what happened to our children because of the elders, we adults, our negligence. This is what is happening to our children. Now, if you look at the same page, it will tell you, despite all these tests, when they take the drugs from the pharmacies, when they pack everything, they are saying, no cases of this were submitted to the hospitals. These were there, people were buying it, and then cases are coming. But when they stop everything and seize things from different places, from all the pharmacies, the cases stopped. That's what is here. If I read it properly, that's what is here. Now, if you go to, you will also go to, that's 5. Honorable Speaker, we go to page 35. Let's do it quickly. Page 35. Page 35, it says there is urgent in under recommendations. There is urgent need for a functional national medicines quality control laboratory. The Select Committee is liably informed by the Ministry of Health that the World Bank is funding the construction of one modern Q lab. Honorable Speaker, the same thing. In these last 5 years, I mentioned it here that the Indians were very much interested in supporting the Gambia to establish that central laboratory because they know the business they are doing with the Gambia. And they are very good when it comes to establishing those labs. But because of negligence, I am told, and I raise it here, those who are here, because of negligence, the lab was not established. Not because of the Indians. The Indians tried all their best, but eventually they had to leave. My information is that those who are responsible told them that you cannot get land. They could not get land to establish that. And that was the reason why the Indians gave. But the Indians were ready to support. So now we have an opportunity. Why don't we still consult and pursue that? Because we have these good relations with Indians. They established this through the South-South Cooperation. You can get a very good lab which will test all these things for you, and then your problem is solved. But every time, Senegal, Ghana, Mali, all these other places, as if you are not a sovereign state of your own. It cannot continue like that. Now, it is also mentioned here, Honorable Speaker, that when they met the pharmacy council, they were told that the pharmacy council told them it was difficult to, it's like the Median pharmaceutical company could not would not respond to their calls. They would send email, they would not respond to the emails. When they are importing medicines from Maiden, the communication is very good. Huh? But when there is an outcry of people dying here and they consult them, the line is dead. That's why I'm saying the root causes of this is yet to be established. And from my own information from news media, the Maiden has said that this is not their cause. They are not responsible. They are not responsible. The interesting, the pharmacy, the paracetamol serum, which was banned when the Indonesians had that this happened in the Gambia, they stopped the paracetamol syrup there. But that paracetamol syrup is not produced by Maiden. So there is a big speculation that only Maiden, the medicines that are here, only those medicines were bound for only the Gambia. And the interesting thing, Honorable Speaker, is that the company importing this from the Maiden did it only twice. And very recently, that is April 2022 and June 2022, they brought the first consignment. So it means that these are the two consignments that were brought. And it's relatively new. Which means this medicine they are bringing here is a very new medicine. You go to many countries, you will not see it. That's what they should be finding out. The information I got that this is bound for only the Gambia. And I'm yet to hear any story anywhere else which is going to refute that. So we must follow that. Because we want to get to the root cause of this, because 70 of our own citizens have passed away. Honorable Speaker, the recommendations. They said a functional national medicine quality control lab. Now, yes, we've passed that. There's a harmonization of pharmacy regulations with West African regions such as Ghana and Nigeria. Ban and blacklist Maiden pharmaceuticals, products, etc., etc. So we should add, when we come to that, we should add that when we ban them, it is there. When we ban them, we should also ensure that, we follow this to the last place. And if they are culpable, we take them to the International Court of Arbitration and let them compensate the victims, adequately compensate the victims. Not for Gambia government to go and distribute $1 million among the victims. Let them fully compensate the victims. But we must establish the facts before we can do that. Because if you go to court and you don't give them, anecdotal evidence, you are wasting your time. Honorable Speaker, like I said, now they are saying the WHO is involved in this investigation. And the WHO also established what has been established in the Gambia. Because WHO is also testing these medicines. And it has been proven that these medicines are faulty. So if they are faulty and they can kill people, that means that we can easily link things to say that, that pharmacy is actually culpable. And we must investigate it thoroughly, to ensure that that is established. Now, there's a WHO laboratory analysis of contaminated products involved in the Gambia. Tests ethylene, glycol, and diethylene glycol were found in unacceptable amounts in the samples. So it's established kind of, but not fully established. We need to follow it. Honorable Speaker, to conclude, the committee has done a good job, but my final recommendation is for us to review the Agency Act, the Control Act, and the Pharmacy Act, which is importing things. Let's review all these three and look for best practices to ensure that this type of thing does not happen to this country. And when we are doing that, we'll have the opportunity to call for all the stakeholders to come on the table, and we will deal with all the issues. Now, what they are trying to do, my suspicion, is that each is trying to exonerate itself from this. It is not done objectively. They have not been telling us the real truth that we are looking for. But if we review this, all these acts, because the information that I have been hearing and what I have seen here sometimes is different. And I don't want to follow those things because I'm not following anybody. But if you are the controller of medicines, or you are the ones controlling the licensing to the pharmacies, but you are at the same time the person who is also licensed, then there is a problem. So we need to find out all those things, and that is part of this thing, but it did not come. Who are the actual people giving licensing? Who have they given licenses to? We need to know all these things. And how are those licenses given? Because I am told that Gambians will die looking for this license, they will not get it to import. It is so difficult to have the license to import. Why? Because we have people here who can import medicine for us, and they can even distribute this medicine throughout the country. But they will look for this medicine. Sometimes they'll get so tired that they go and rent a license from somebody who is not supposed to engage in pharmacy work. We must tell each other the truth, this place. Otherwise, we will not have any progress. So on that note, Honorable Speaker, that's my recommendation, that we review all the acts and put them in conformity to international standards, so that and so that we monitor them. The problem in this country is monitoring, because nothing is transparent. We must monitor them, set up institutions to monitor them, just like we are doing for the SOEs. We must set up those institutions that will be on their necks day and night to ensure that they do their job. Otherwise, we will not have any progress. On that note, I thank the committee for a very good report, and thank the Speaker for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Woolly East. I now recognize the Member for Banjul South to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the President's advisor, one of the President's advisors, if I'm right, and I hope that you will take these messages that we are delivering here and advise him well. I trust you to do that for us, because our country is in a crossroad. Mr. Speaker, I would thank the honorable members of the committee, but I will not say for a well-done report, because I think the report is short of what we expected. As a National Assembly, we expect a report with recommendations to be accompanied by a strong resolution of what we expect to do as a follow-up. So I will join my honorable colleagues to say that this is not a complete report, but is work in progress. Honorable Speaker, I'm not saying you've not done a good job. I'm just saying that there is more to be done. When we look at the report, when this thing happened, I first of all looked at the act that manages medicines in this country, and I also looked at the regulations. Mr. Speaker, sorry, not honorable. Mr. Speaker, when you look at section 50 and section 49, if I may look at my tablet for the act, please, Mr. Speaker. If you look at section 49 and section 50, it takes us through, I'm just looking at the act, it takes us through the regulations and the controls. I'm just trying to find the act because I want to make sure that what I'm saying is according to the law. Okay, it might take time, but I've taken some notes. Mr. Speaker, it says, Honorable Mr. Speaker, it gives us the guidelines for registering of medicines in the Gambia. And this policy was adopted in 2017. And it gives the MCA the authority and the mandate to control and to manage. And it says that they shall. It did not say they will or they should, or it says it shall have a laboratory. And some of my honorable colleagues did mention the lack of laboratories. And looking at the report, it says that the medicines that were brought into the country went through the right process. So I doubt, how can they go through the right process if we do not have the facilities? So there shouldn't be a blame game here. We are a National Assembly here, and we've just recently concluded on the budget, and we have seen the lack of resources, the lack of facilities, the lack of equipment, yet as National Assembly members, we opted to do otherwise by raising our salaries, for example, and also increasing the budget of the President instead of looking at the needs of this country. And this was before we approved the budget in this August House. And also the minister himself sent in the budget, and I would assume that he consulted with the agencies that were under his purview, yet failed to also address things that were urgent, things that were needed. So, Mr. Speaker, my deliberation will not be long, because I will expect this to go back. I will not expect this August House to adopt this report, but I would expect it to go back. We look into it, and when it was debated here on the 26th of November, some of us recommended that it be committed to the health, as well as the committee in charge of gender and children's welfare, because this matter involves children. And I think that was the reason why the government directed the monies that were given to the victims through the gender ministry. So I think this report will be incomplete if it does not involve that committee as well. And also looking at the institutions that were visited, the gender ministry is also not a part of it. And the monies that were given to the victims were directed to the Ministry of Gender and Children's Welfare. So my deliberations will not be long. I will just recommend that we look into the matter again and make sure that we do the right thing and come up with a strong resolution. And I support the honorable members that say that we, as National Assembly members, should be a part of the process, because we are mandated to have oversight functions on these institutions to make sure that we are part and parcel of the people that will make sure that the right thing is done, and to also hold those responsible, because the mandate is to find the culprits of this, and I do not see this. I see some blame game here and there, but not actually pointing at the right direction, because first of all, the ministry is responsible, and then through the MCA, also the ministry is responsible. So rather than us pointing at the, I don't even know the name of the suppliers, because I'm not interested in them. I'm more interested in the children of my country that were brutally murdered by the lack of due process being followed in bringing medication into our beloved country. But, Mr. Speaker, I would recommend this report to go back to the two committees to have a proper look into it and come up with strong resolutions to hold people responsible. I've had some of my honorable members say that some people should resign. Yes, if it was me, I would have resigned forthwith. I wouldn't even wait for anybody to ask for my resignation, because one life is one too many, let alone 70 plus. And like Honorable for 𝒂𝒄𝒏𝒏 said, we do not even know how much, because there are some people up there who might not have been to hospitals, so they might not be counted. So we have to tread with care and be cautious and walk with our conscience. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But my recommendation is not to adopt this report, but to send it back for it to come with proper resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Banjul South. I now give the floor to the member for Bundung Kakunda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. First of all, I want to join my honorable colleagues to sympathize with the victims of the acute kidney, and at the same time to at least thank the committee who did a very good job on behalf of the Assembly, and I must recognize their effort and energy. The reason why I'm saying this, because these are committees that are mandated to do certain tasks on behalf of the Assembly. So for that being the case, if they do it, we must have to thank them for their time and energy. Basically, I know the committee comprises of different members from different angles. So, and I think with the report that they've given to us, for me, what I want to see in the report, that is the causes of the whole problem, and what we can do to address, and the recommendation. This is my area that I want to concentrate on, because when there is a problem, already there is a problem. What can we do is to find a solution to address the problem. So, because we are all here, yes. In fact, the reason why the committee is given the responsibility to take up this task, to do the investigation and come up with a report, because already we are already involved in the process. That's the National Assembly. But not all the committees can involve. But the Health Committee is given the task to do that, which I think we have to be fair to them, that, they did a good job. Because sometimes there are certain utterances, we are trying to send a weak signal to the outside people who are out there, that committees are here, but they don't know how to do their job. And we need to appreciate each other. Because at the end of the day, we all come from different backgrounds. On the side of health, I don't know anything about it. But if I'm in the committee, maybe the little that I know, I can contribute to add value. And recommendations are things that you can bring. Today, whatever recommendation, any report that is given to any of us here or any committee, when you bring your recommendation, I can always come and say, okay, I also have a recommendation to add. So the best thing now is, if we still need more recommendation from members, they can bring it forward to the chair of the committee so that they can, include it there and see how best we can do it. So for that being the case, I think when you go to page 26, page 25, what are the causes? It is already been highlighted. I don't need to read it because other members, they read it. So, and I think this will be an opportunity for the Minister of Health to, at least try to fix their, ministry, so that some of the gaps that they have, they can try to fix it. Because this is not only in the Gambia, but it has happened to other countries where they use this as an opportunity to able to, address most of the gaps that they have in their health sector. So, as a matter of fact, we still need to work very hard as a ministry, as a country, to, at least try to mitigate some of these things. Because, yes, we will not say, okay, the ministry, they did, because we don't expect such a thing to happen. Because this is about life, and nobody would love your citizen to die like that, which we condemn. Myself, I condemn it. But now it has happened. What is the solution? So that solution is our responsibility to come up together to see how best we can do it. regardless of where we belong to or so. Because at the end of the day, this is not about a section of a society. It's about health. It can affect any of us here, including our own family. So for that being the case, I think the committee, some of the recommendations that you make, when you come to page, what we can do to address, what can be done to prevent further reoccurrence. The answer is appearance of contaminated product in the market can only be prevented in manufacture. Follow GMP procedures. So constant post-marketing surveillance in the answer. Monitoring of products in use should be enhanced. Unfortunately, this will be difficult for the Gambia with the current capacity of high deficient human resource coupled with absence of a quality control laboratory. So already we know the problem. Why? Because we don't have the laboratory facility. So the ministry should now work on that to ensure that we have that. So on the side of this WHO or World Bank supporting, in this world right now, you must collaborate and partner if you want to succeed. As members, we are partnering together to develop our various constituencies. So to say, okay, you cannot rely on somebody, you must rely, because the thing is, if you don't have the capacity, you don't have the finance, you must collaborate so that you can achieve your goal. For me, as far as partnership and collaboration is, I always go in for that so that I can achieve my goal. But when I am doing it, I have to factor so many things so that it will not affect me. So, but that one is left to us for us to be able to think and see how best we go about it. So on the side of the recommendations, Mr. Honorable Speaker, page 38. The government should pursue legal action against Meridian Pharmaceutical for exporting contaminated drug to the Gambia with the Atlantic brand. I think this one also is very important, both sides, because we don't know the business that transpired, because the importer, is the buyer and the manufacturer. We don't know what transpired, so we need to, factor that, even if it is going to be positive, because according to the report, the communication is no more happening, to the manufacturer. So for that being the case, I don't know how we can establish that relationship, but something has to be done with that. Number 11, Ministry of Health to revive the primary health care system for early detection of medical cases for more effective and efficient health care delivery. Because this is very important. We are talking about this, but actually, holistically, the health sector need to be, at least so that, at least each and every one of us can have good health service delivery. So this is going to be an opportunity for us to fix our health sector. So how can we do this? Is commitment and sincerity. Yes, this health sector, we have our own brothers and sisters who are there. We've given you the mandate and the trust for you to work for the country. So, we expect each and every one of them to at least work with sincerity and dedication. Because at the end of the day, whatever happens is your own people that we are serving. So for us, we will be held accountable because everything comes to us that the MPs are not doing anything or whatever. But we are doing our part. The reason why we are doing because already today the report is here, we are all debating on the report so that we can find a common solution. So now the solution here is, let's try and go by the recommendation. If we have any other extra recommendation, we can, at least add it, adjust it, so that we can, at least be in the same wavelength. Because the thing is, I don't want us to start a precedent where a committee will report. You are not part of the committee. You just want to see the report as it's not important, which is, I don't think, is very normal. So, but the thing is now, because whatever report you bring, even if you are given the responsibility, you can just make your report, but others can also have some additional adjustment that they feel it can be. So the important thing here is let's try and consolidate the various points that we have, then we can have a better report, inshallah. So on that note, I want to thank the committee once again for the good job, and I am appealing to the Assembly, let's consider the report, and also not only consider, but the Health Committee to follow up in terms of monitoring the whole process, because this is not about considering and adopting the report and you leave it like that. We have to monitor them to see that at least the Assembly is on the process of monitoring the whole process. So on that note, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member for Bundung Kakunda. I now give the floor to nominated member Kebalang Fofana.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, to start with, I would join my fellow honorable colleagues in extending our appreciation to the Health Committee for really embarking on an exercise which they were mandated by this very August Assembly on the 26th of October 2022. A mandate that was born out of a resolution, and a resolution that was passed by this very August Assembly. And Honorable Speaker, I wouldn't do justice if I do not reiterate our heartfelt condolences again to the bereaved families. We are talking about the demise of 70 plus children, or let me say 70 children. Wherever that happens in the world, it's a national tragedy. And to the families, we are telling them that we stand with them. To the families, we are telling them that this entire country is behind them. And we'll make sure that justice is not only seen to be done in this case, but that justice is achieved. Honorable Speaker, before moving further, let us remind ourselves as to what the Health Committee was mandated to do. If you look at page, let me say paragraph 6 of the health report, which should be on page 11, and you look at the objectives. The first mandate of the Health Committee was to look at the causes of the acute. They were also mandated to look at the culpabilities of the importers and look at the effectiveness of what? The legislation. This, among a host of other issues, were the basis for the resolution itself. Today we have received the report, and to do justice to the report, we must evaluate it based on its performance with regards to the task it was really mandated to do. And on that note, I would refer this August Assembly, Honorable Speaker, to page 25. Page 25, it says, what caused the problem? If you look at paragraph 64, Honorable Speaker, the answer there, it states that it is a quality assurance failure on the part of the manufacturer. Which means what page 65 is telling us is that the real cause of the acute was as a result of the contaminated syrups which were manufactured by Made-in Pharmaceuticals, imported to the country by Atlantic Pharmaceuticals, consumed by our innocent children who drank it and eventually succumbed. This is what paragraph 64 is telling us. Paragraph 65 is telling us that the company here, I assume, it means Atlantic Pharmaceuticals. If I'm wrong, members of the Health Committee can correct me. It says the company that imported the product from Made in Pharmaceuticals is duly registered. And what this paragraph is trying to tell us is that Atlantic Pharmaceuticals have complied with all the rules and regulations as it is obtained by the MCA Act governing medicines and medically related products into the country with regards to their importation and distribution. Honorable Speaker, I will move to paragraph 66 before doing my analysis. Paragraph 66 is telling us that damage could have been minimized if a robust pharmacovigilance unit existed at MCA. But it further continues to say that the unit exists, but it is severely limited by what capacity? So, Honorable Speaker, we are hearing two languages. I don't want to see it as a conflict, but I would conclude to say that there are inefficiencies in the system. But what am I trying to say here? Everything is being attributed to Made in Pharmaceuticals. We are saying MCA have acted duly with regards to the regulations. We are saying that Atlantic pharmacies have done what they are supposed to do. So then, as a country, where did we go wrong? This is what we need to ask ourselves. Where did we go wrong? Because the people we are pointing fingers at are external factors. We have no control over them. But here, as a people, where did we go wrong? And I will tell you, it's in our regulations. Because if at all the regulations were progressive, Atlantic Pharmaceuticals would have been held responsible. They should be duty bound for importing and distributing contaminated drugs in our country. But how comes you are telling us that they have complied with the laws and imported contaminated syrups into our country, which resulted in fatalities, and still now they cannot be found wanting? Then, how is the law serving us as a people? Where are the punitive measures in the law? Where are the checks and balances? Where are the controls? We need to look at this holistically. And by virtue of this report, yes, many honorable members have pointed fingers to ministries. I side with you. But I would point my finger to this assembly because this law was passed in this assembly in 2014. The National Assembly is the one who legislates laws in this country. What happened? And this is not the first law. In 2014 also, the GPPA Act that we amended in 2022 was legislated in this very house in 2014. And when we review it this year, we realize it was not fit for purpose. But, Honorable Speaker, it will only be convenient to point all the accusing fingers at Made in Pharmaceuticals. If you look at the MCA regulations, there are whole sections about importers of drugs and what they are mandated to do. And the law is very clear as to what should be done if at all an importer is found wanting on the importation of what? Contaminated drugs. And again, Honorable Speaker, when they say that Made in Pharmacy have done everything that they need to do during the importation, I will be right to say it means that they have what provided a certificate of analysis. Can we have an interpretation, a medical interpretation as to what should be the purpose of a certificate of analysis? For us to know where the burden of responsibility lies. Of course, we know Gambia doesn't have a laboratory, but the only way that MCA will allow any importer to bring drugs into this country is when you present a certificate of analysis, which means a certificate of analysis is out there to prove beyond reasonable doubt that what those drugs are in compliance with what international standards. Honorable Speaker, if at all a certificate of analysis was presented, and based on the provision of the certificate of analysis, that's where MCA premised their decision to allow the importation, clearance, and distribution of those drugs. Today, we need nobody to tell us that that certificate of analysis was what? Falsified. Now, who bears the responsibility for that? Who bears the responsibility? Do we still say made in pharmaceuticals? It's a question. Answer it with any side of the coin. But if you ask me, I will not exonerate the importer who brings it here. Where does our law stand in making sure that the wholesalers and importers of the drugs perform their due diligence with regards to the companies where they are importing those drugs? They should be duty bound. It is their responsibility. It's not only about making profit. We are talking about 70 kids. It could have been my child. It could have been yours. It could have been myself. It could have been you. This is serious. This is not about the government. This is a perennial problem. We are just seeing the results today. Do we have to wait for another one to come for us to be proactive? Honorable Speaker, before moving from this point, what I would encourage this August Assembly to do is look at the recommendations that our able Select Committee on Health have provided on these salient points and see how best do we strengthen them. They have done a great job and they've performed it objectively. No report is conclusive. The main reason we mandated them to go and do the job and report back to us is to take ownership of the report. If we throw this report out, we are not throwing the report of the Health Committee. We are throwing our own report. And we are duty bound to strengthen it. Let's look at it objectively. Analyze it rationally. Improve on the areas we believe they need to be tightened. And do justice to the current situation that we are faced with. Honorable Speaker, at this point, I would refer the Honorable House to page 11, paragraph 11. Page 11, paragraph 11, I will just refer the House there to underscore some of the salient points that I have noted. If you look at paragraph 11 and 12, they are telling us that the products were received or allowed to be imported into the country upon the presentation of certificates of analysis. So, Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee, in your response to the members, I would definitely appreciate it if you can deliberate on that point. What is the basis or the rationale behind requesting for a certificate of analysis, so as to help us better comprehend whether the MCA can rely on the certificate of analysis alone in order to safeguard the lives of ordinary Gambians, including myself. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at paragraph 13, paragraph 13, you should be on page 12, says the NCA informed the Select Committee that the Gambia has no quality control laboratory facility for testing of medicines and related products. I think this was part of the regulation. If it is part of the regulation, which means it is part of the cycle to certify products before they are released into the market, we have a role to play here as National Assembly members. It is part of our oversight responsibilities to make sure that once laws are passed, we look at their actual implementation. I've said it here before, and I wouldn't shy away from it. We can conveniently point fingers to ministries, departments, and agencies. and leave ourselves out of the cycle. But will it change anything? Never. We are part and parcel of the problem. Let's ask ourselves, how many times have we really conducted or scrutinized the implementations of the laws and regulations we pass in this house? We never did. And laws are passed to make sure that society lives harmoniously. But we do not scrutinize them. We are not even bothered with their implementation. That's why at the end of the day, when problems happen, we become reactive. We become emotional. And that won't solve it. That won't solve it. I think, Mr. Speaker, for that one, I would urge this honorable House to take up that oversight responsibility and perform it diligently. Our role is not only to make laws, but our role is to follow those laws through the cycle of implementation, to make sure that they serve the very purpose for which they were passed. If we do not do it, we are not better than the people who do not implement it to the latter. Honorable Speaker, at this point, I would refer the Honorable House to page 15, paragraph 28. And with your permission, I will read. I will start from the second sentence, where it says, out of the 66 patients who were admitted for AKI, 63 died, 2 survived, while 1 was discharged against medical advice. The 2 who survived had taken only 1 dose